Hi everyone, Brendan here from PTG, and today I am joined by Paul Sorge from StorageCraft, and we're going to be talking about the very important subject of backups, data backups. And so, Paul, why don't you give us a little bit of a background into what StorageCraft does,
Mhm.
and then sort of your role with the company.
Sure. StorageCraft is basically there's three pillars to our firm, our company. We're basically a one known for data protection, two for cloud-based protection, and also for scale-out storage. Back in 2003, we were corporate initiated, and we had the intellectual property that actually developed the platform for these three pillars. So I'm a channel and business account rep for StorageCraft. So I cover the Mid-Atlantic area. So I go all the way up into Washington, all the way down to the Carolina area. So I heard a lot about this program. Brendan, thanks very much for having me on.
Sure, yeah, happy to have you, and it's an important topic. And I think there may be, I want to clear up some confusion because
Mhm.
we deal mostly with people who have Office 365 and some of the security that is, native to Office 365 in place, and they think everything is backed up and everything is good to go. But why might someone need to back up their data
Mhm.
using a different solution?
No, it's a great question. We get it a lot. Probably one of the biggest reasons why you want to back up or use a augmented solution, other than maybe some data protections that might be in the cloud, is you don't have necessarily the granular details. So, for instance, even though you might have a cloud solution that may have some type of retention periods for 30 days, 30 days may not necessarily be your SLA if you need to recover data on a regular basis, or if you need long-term retention. So, for instance, Office 365 in the Microsoft Cloud, if I understand it correctly, you might have 30-day retentions. But in other platforms such as StorageCraft for Office 365, we can give you unlimited storage. We can cover a variety of the attributes that are with O365, and we can literally almost give you unlimited retention policy that you can go in and recover data greater than 30 days.
That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those SLAs because that is an issue that sometimes gets overlooked, and people need to be aware of that. And what are two or three of the big reasons right now that you guys are seeing for data loss?
Mm. So I think there's two or three things for data loss. Is probably the biggest thing that we're seeing is a couple things. And since we're dealing currently right now, I'll just say with teleworking,
Hmm.
and we're also dealing with COVID-19, as we're probably all doing the teleworking thing. Is that
Hmm.
you know unfortunately with the reduction, the contraction that's happening in the industry right now, and when you literally have, just looking at the news this morning, almost 26 million people that are unemployed, there's a lot of people that are leaving firms that are either getting
Hmm.
furloughed or basically getting let go. So one of the biggest things about recovering data is that when somebody leaves. So, and there could be a couple of things. Somebody's asked to leave, okay, and so therefore they might take a chunk of data with them, right, that you need to recover that you no longer have. So your
Right.
intellectual property might be at risk at that point. The other thing, even those, the other major reason is just simply because of ransomware, right? Ransomware is basically being infected through email change or maybe phishing type of things, where basically they're locking up systems, and you can actually propagate that through an organization. So what you can actually do is through ransomware, if you're protecting it, and depending upon the SLA and your type of, I'll say, paranoia, in other words, how often do you want to recover or
Hmm.
refile, you can actually recover that. So you're not limiting yourself for a ransomware type of recovery. I mean, we always say at StorageCraft, never pay the ransom. And we're part of the data protection and cloud protection team that tells people you don't have to pay it, because literally you could do snapshotting of your data, particularly in Office 365, up to as 90 seconds. So therefore, if there's any type of hack, ransomware, or any type of compromise in your data, your recovery of your files, or your system for that matter, is basically snapshot. So you're getting minimal disruption in maybe some of the work or files that you actually created.
Gotcha. Yeah, it puts you in a much better bargaining position when
It certainly
someone
does.
in that horrible, hopefully nobody is in that position, but when you do get those notices, you definitely want to know that you have that in place. That's a
Yeah.
great point.
Yeah, and
Um,
I would just add one thing though. The other, if I can just add another one, the other one
yeah,
is sometimes it's just human error.
right.
You might be working on maybe the corporate budget, and all of a sudden you didn't save your particular data, but all of a sudden you overwrite it to a particular file.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
all of a sudden you have 2 or 3 hours, maybe 4 hours, who knows, maybe a whole day because you don't have autosave that's actually there. Well, what happens at that point? You got to start over? Okay, well, that's another thing. And that might be just something as simple as the human error. In fact, if you look at some of the material that we have there, probably one of the biggest thing next to employees leaving in ransomware is just the human element, which unfortunately we can't correct, but we can help protect.
Yeah, that's so true. And actually, a little bit later, StorageCraft has provided a why you need to back up Office 365, 5 simple reasons. And if anybody wants that handout with all 5 reasons and some of the strategies that you can use, we'd be happy to provide that to you later. Tell me, Paul, so what if I'm a business owner and I say, well, I've got local backups. So why do I need cloud backups, or what's the difference between local backups and cloud backups?
Sure. A lot of people that have local backups, they might be paranoid in a sense or feel more comfortable that they can go and hug their box and say, here's my data. But the problem is sometimes with that, particularly here in the South, is that if people probably need to have some type of redundancy in their backup, sometimes just having one file or one local backup may not necessarily give you the protection that you need. I always use the expression is that if you have local backup, it's in your data center, and if you have a disgruntled employee or maybe somebody that actually breaks into your building or systems, and all of a sudden takes a super soaker to your server, and all of a sudden there's your data, and you can't recover it because of a failed unit. The cloud, on the other hand, could be a primary backup or a secondary backup, depending upon, again, the type of resiliency that you actually need. And also, the cloud allows you to scale because basically, as you grow, you get peaks or valleys in the type of data growth that you actually have. You don't have to build that local infrastructure that could be very costly and it costs a lot of labor IT time to actually stand it up. So that's kind of the difference between the local and the cloud. And I think that some people just think that the cloud, I can have the economy of standing something up very quickly. So therefore, I can increase my productivity without having this long spend cycles to actually standing up servers in that might be local, that might be more expensive. So we see a lot of conversations about people either going from local to the cloud or keeping local because they want local protection there in case something happens to the cloud, or vice versa, and they get kind of the best of both ways, and or they have a hybrid solution of peaks and valleys and spikes in data between local and also the cloud.
Yeah. I see this term get used a lot: off-site disaster recovery.
Mhm.
What can you break down for us exactly what that means?
Sure. Offsite just means is that I'm going from a local depository, a data center, an IDF, that I might have at my company or my firm, where I have an IDF or a data center and keeping my data there. Offsite obviously means that I'm going to a cloud or an extended data center that I may not necessarily own, that I rent, so I can actually back up and have redundancy to that particular cloud. So again, we see a lot of people, particularly here in the Tennessee and the South, right? If you know, in June 1, we have the hurricane or seasons or even the tornado systems that actually touched down a couple of weeks ago. You probably noticed this is that a lot of businesses were absolutely disrupted. And then we talked to a lot of customers that had to recover in the cloud to their local after they got back in their office to actually to mop up some of the damage that might have been done. So we see that type of redundancy there. And we notice is that the recovery time to make people productive, having redundancies that are both local and in the cloud, mean that people can get back to work sooner and increase their productivity, so they're not impacting revenue or profits.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it seems like, Paul, these type of local disruptions are just happening more and more frequently. So it's probably good to have that cloud solution. And now, is cloud backup a one size fits all, or are there options there?
We have a lot of clients that are very small, SMB, all the way up to enterprise. So the cloud can scale. It doesn't necessarily matter that this isn't something for, I'll just say, Wall Street, Madison Avenue, New York style enterprise type of customers that are using the cloud. Startups are using it. So it can definitely scale. And so we see a whole spectrum of clients. And it's not to necessarily get scared of just because it's in the cloud, you don't own it, it's somebody else's problem. But we're seeing a lot of clients adopt the cloud because it's becoming, I'll just say, the sixth utility, just like your heating, air conditioning, HVAC, utility, phone, that type
Mm.
of thing. Now, infrastructure in the cloud is becoming that sixth utility that people are just getting used to.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Mhm.
Now, what type of data, Office 365 data, is available to be backed up?
So under the platform for StorageCraft for O365, we back up, obviously, O365 mailboxes. But one of the things that you probably differentiate StorageCraft with perhaps some of the other vendors that are out there is it's not only just the mailbox itself. We actually back up SharePoint, we actually back up team information, and also file folders. So a lot of the Office suite that actually is touching the mailbox that are ancillary for this data, we also back up. So that's the type of data that we distinguish ourselves from some of our other competitors. So that makes recovery of not only your mailbox, but also the data that might be impacting your mailbox. So you have complete conversations and files that are affiliated with Office 365 that are actually backed up.
That's great. Yeah, because I know like at PTG, we have a lot of crucial data in that SharePoint intranet,
Mhm,
so
mhm,
that would be important to have backed up.
mhm.
So, well, this has been great information. I want to go ahead and give people a another preview here of the data sheet here. So this is the 5 reasons, and sort of just gives you a good overview of some of the main things to look out for, and then talks about some of the specific StorageCraft solutions as well, and what your options as a business are with them. And like Paul said, it's not a one size fits all. They back up large enterprises right down to the smallest SMB. So if you're interested in a StorageCraft solution, a backup solution, you can contact your PTG customer experience team, and we'd be happy to start that conversation for you. We already have some of our clients using this solution right now. And so just get in touch with us and let us know. And if you'd like to get the 5 reasons why to back up, contact us, put a comment in the comments here, and I'll be sure to get a copy of that sent over to you. And I'm sure, Paul, if anyone had any questions that we couldn't answer, we could probably just send those to you as well, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always willing to entertain the PTG team. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time today. This was very helpful. I think it cleared up a lot of questions people have about the different types of backups and why you need a better backup solution. So I appreciate that, and we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure. So thank you, Paul.
Well, my pleasure. I hope to be back in a future program. Thanks for having me.
Great.